Our initial brief was to transform what had been a 1970s office that had been built out of a once beautiful 1890s house and make a contemporary office space.
The ideology was quite complex and fun to pursue because the client had a very strong focus on sustainability and a very strong focus on biophilia.
Hi, I'm Tim Greer, architect from Tonkin Zulaikha Greer.
I'm Nazia Kachwalla, architect at Tonkin Zulaikha Greer. Welcome to Campbell House.
Well, I think that actually sits at the core of the project, and it was in the nub of the brief that we were given. How could we make a series of spaces that were incredibly pleasant to be in, to have a great sense of well-being, and also know that we are using as little energy as we can.
The design as it currently stands is trying to celebrate, each era that this building has seen and witnessed in terms of use and architectural response as well. And it's making sense of the additions that have happened over time, and it's celebrating each and every one of those additions. So when we look at the original house, which was built in the 1890s, it belonged to the Campbell family, it's about acknowledging that and understanding the importance of that with regards to the architectural response that we have applied and added that additional story to. So it's very much integrated within the framework of what sits on the side or sat on the side before we got here.
The front staircase, for example, had a very unsympathetic 1970s staircase, literally just clamped onto the front of this very beautiful 1890s house. And we thought, it'd be interesting to rebuild that staircase as a transparent space so that you could see the 1890s wall in behind, and that's how we arrived at the front staircase. The windows on the outside, where there were beautiful small vertical windows, which were then all knocked out for a big horizontal window. We've recorded where the horizontal window was in white bricks, and then we rebuilt small vertical windows. So you get the story of 3 generations of windows. And there's lots of little stories like that all the way around the building. We love natural materials because they last. And so when you look at the floor, going back to the street, we've got the garden path outside in concrete and gravel. Then the timber on the inside is very much working with the notion of the original house that would have had timber floors. We were very keen to have timber floors. But with offices, there's some other challenges, particularly around acoustics. And we devised this technique where we've got the glass walls that often replaced original masonry walls. They sit within a quite deep steel reveal. The steel takes the form of the original masonry wall, but then has glass let into that, and it's a natural acoustic seal. We then started to code the interior around white and timber. So where the rooms are obviously lined in white paint, but where you've got a special thing like a door, which is a threshold, a surface that you move through, we made the doors timber, and then they're banded very subtly, but that's an echo of the original doors. So there's a whole series of coding going on with the materials around what's really useful for a contemporary office space, what's the relationship of that to the history of the site, and what's a really kind of practical set of surfaces to have.
When you talk about coding, there's a whole bunch of other subtleties within the interior as well. You'll notice the skirting boards are set up to a certain datum, which then that datum follows on to the door leaf itself to add that additional level of detail. And that comes from, again, the Victorian, late Victorian era, where the skirting boards would have been really tall. They would have a certain profile to them. So the rooms that we found where they were found in its original extent, so we saw traces of that skirting and cornices. We've put back what was there, and the rooms that were built later on and recreated have a contemporary version of that detail. So that's where you get that subtle acknowledgement of what was there once in a very contemporary way.
We then made the next step of thinking about the tree and the leaves of the tree as the process of photosynthesizing to make energy for the growth of the tree, and could we take an array of photovoltaics and mimic nature and generate electricity energy for the building.
The relationship of the glazed skylight and the sun that comes through it is quite important here, because we are using PV panels to sunshade so that we're not living in a hot box. And then those sun shading elements are absorbing energy, and that energy is not wasted. That then comes back into providing condition spaces for humans to work within. Furthermore, to keep the temperature regulated in winter as well, they're positioned at a certain angle and they're spaced strategically so that the winter sun can come in and bring heat and warmth to the interior in winter as well. So as an ecosystem, it functions both for landscape but also for humans. It's passively ventilated, it's naturally lit, and it very much becomes an ecosystem within itself.
And I think it's really interesting when you put a living thing, a tree, in the middle of a space.
Also, very much life. You see life in front of you. And for me, that's dissolving anything that is not living. So even though we pay attention to details, skirting details and cornice details and door details, and where's the steel and where's the glass and how can that enhance what we have, life itself for us and landscape, that just dissolves. And the focus becomes this subtly moving tree in the wind that's passing through. You smell, you get the smell and aroma of the leaves and the flowers beyond just the built environment. So it's fading away to a certain extent what's not important in life and celebrating life as we know it.